Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 189, Sunday. It is September the 10th. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, of course, today is the first day of the kickoff of the NFL, the first Sunday. So expecting to see some football today. But of course, we had Hurricane Irma, which made landfall in southern Florida this morning, down on the looks like the southwest coast. And still a couple, I guess, maybe 100 miles or more before they even get to the Awan storm. And just from the video I was watching earlier, it looks pretty bad down there. And they've got at least 24 to 36 straight hours of anything from tropical force to hurricane force winds. Lots of rain. The storm surge will be coming. And so it looks like they're in for a pretty rough ride there for the next 24, 36 hours. And then, of course, there'll be a tremendous amount of devastation and cleanup that will follow. Certainly rescue efforts, recovery efforts, rebuilding efforts. It's a fairly catastrophic storm. But hopefully they had plenty of time to prepare for this one because it was a slow-moving storm. It's picked up speed now, which is actually good because the longer it sits there, the more rain it dumps. So anyway, it's moving on its course, headed north, slightly to the northeast. And looks like they're in for a rough ride, but we can just hope that everybody took the proper precautions and we have as few lives lost as possible. A lot of people already down there waiting for the first opportunity to get started with recovery efforts, rescue efforts, and things like that. So I think they're as prepared as they could be given the situation you have, and still haven't heard exactly what the situation is in the Keys because I don't think there's any power down there at all. We can assume that they got hit pretty hard last night. But anyway, we're watching that closely, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So wish them all the best. And I'm sure that those of us who live up here in this area of the country where I'm at, a lot of you in the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, such a big storm that covers such a wide area that I think we're all going to see a lot of rain and storms coming in the week ahead. So we'll just keep watching for that. A lot of tornadoes, too. Okay, so let's get started with our Sunday morning edition, which I rarely do a Sunday morning video, but this is it. So just cover a few topics here, and we'll move on. So one of my favorite stories in the last 24 hours was there was a high school in Minnesota that banned flags from students' vehicles. And there was a fantastic pic that's making its way around Twitter and Facebook, and it shows how the students responded. And what you saw in the picture was a whole parking lot of students' vehicles with large flags and all over the cars and trucks and everything, mounted everywhere, just a parking lot full of flags. That's the students' response to the school's flag banning. Now, the school can do what they like, but if they push it, these students can get an attorney, have a class action lawsuit, and they will win. They will certainly win. They're exercising their First Amendment rights. You cannot tell students they cannot wear flags, put them on their car, put them in their truck, wear them on their bodies, walk around with waving one. It's their right to do so. And shame on you, Minnesota School Board, whoever passed that proclamation. You are being made to look like fools, as you should be. Good job to those students up in Minnesota. Well, next up, the liberal media is having a ball bashing the rotten reverend for visiting Michigan and Wisconsin on her 15-city book tour, which she ignored during the campaign. What a horrible politician, right? I mean, like I said, she has no instincts. No instincts whatsoever. So now she's kicking off her book tour right during the time when they're having, these hurricanes and all these other things. It's just her luck, her instincts are really bad, but her luck is even worse. And now she thinks that people in these 15 cities, particularly Wisconsin and Michigan, where she didn't pay much attention to during the campaign, two states that certainly cost her the election, along with many other things. Hillary was home resting while Trump was hitting both of these states very hard. And so now she believes that people are going to pay $3,000 a seat to come and listen to her cry and whine, sporting her Mao Zedong poop-stained pantsuit. I don't think so, because nobody really likes her that much right now. Even Democrats are turning against her. And it's almost pitiful, actually, to watch the Reverend Clinton. And I think things will get much worse for her before they get better. I do believe that she is going to be facing some legal jeopardy with the emails. I do believe that is going to happen, by the way. Well, let's see. We now have a report. As you know, most of you know that back about a month and a half, 2 months ago, the Trump administration, I should say, launched an investigation into the voter fraud, voter irregularities in the 2016 election. They're working through that process now. But it looks like the first state where they've found some real problems is in New Hampshire. If you remember, New Hampshire was back and forth all night long. Trump was up for a while, then Hillary ended up winning New Hampshire by just a fraction, by literally a point. Very, very close in New Hampshire. But now we're getting the reports that New Hampshire would have had over 5,000 illegal votes. Over 5,000 people illegally voted in New Hampshire. We can assume most of those probably went to the rotten reverend. So I think it's safe to say now that had that been a fair election without the cheating by the rotten reverend, Trump would have carried New Hampshire. Let's go ahead and put those 3 electoral college votes in the Trump category, subtract them from Hillary, and now we have, it looks like, a 76-77 point electoral college win, and Trump takes New Hampshire. Congratulations, Mr. President, on winning New Hampshire. And shame on you, rotten reverend, for cheating. You cheated Bernie, you cheated Trump, you cheated your voters, you cheated the DNC, you've cheated everyone, now you're blaming everyone. What a mess you are. Tim Kaine, unbelievable, is defending Antifa still. He says it's unfair to judge them. Well, Mr. Kaine, of course, keep in mind his son is a member of Antifa, and he was arrested in a recent event up in Minnesota, I believe. Now, I don't know if Tim Kaine's aware of this, but the FBI has named Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. So as I said earlier, good job, Tim Kaine, for raising a young terrorist. Your son belongs to a terrorist organization. Not too early to prejudge them, sir. Do you have a video cam? Do you have the ability to look at video? Do you have YouTube? Do you know what YouTube is, Mr. Kaine? Because if you'll take a look at a few videos, you will see exactly what Antifa is all about. Go to their website. Go to their website. They're big supporters of Kim Jong-un, Che Guevara, and many other commies. They think that the Communist Manifesto is a wonderful thing, and that's what they're promoting, Mr. Kaine, and your son's a part of that group. Congratulations. Of course, CNN now facing, this is interesting, CNN's now facing a class action lawsuit for producing fake news. Of course, there's a great deal of video evidence of CNN producing fake news, telling you that reporters are somewhere in the world covering a story when in fact they're in a studio using green screen technology and not using it very well because of the blips and things like that. You can see that they're clearly not where they say they are. They're faking you out because they're fake news. And of course, they have pushed an agenda which is based on lies, fabrications, and just fake news. So now we have, I don't know how many thousand people are involved in this, but it's a very large group of people apparently with legal representation, and they are now suing CNN for producing fake news. Should be very interesting. Whether or not they win the case or not, I don't know. But it will be very interesting watching this case move forward in the civil courts and watching the evidence that they produce and watching CNN having to defend themselves when, like I say, in many cases, there's overwhelming evidence that they were producing fake news. It will be very interesting if we can get an actual legal decision. And I wonder what kind of damages that the plaintiffs are looking for. I don't think they're looking for money, really. I think they just want to expose CNN for the fake news outlet that they are. Quite humorous. Angela Merkel, it looks like things are going badly for her. She has just sustained her second tomato attack in 3 days. So apparently this is catching on. Germans have a lot of tomatoes, and they're apparently throwing them at Angela Merkel. And it looks like she's got a long way to go in this campaign season, and a lot of tomatoes that she'll have to be wiping off her face. And I believe she'll probably get reelected just because the situation in Germany, the party system. You really have like 4 parties, could even call it 5, and she belongs to the biggest dominant party, and she's the leader of that party. That's why it's so hard to get rid of her. But she's backtracked on a lot of things. But she'll probably be reelected, but she's going to take a lot of tomato hits on the way. Well, we have the ratings in from opening night in the NFL. It was really a great marquee matchup. You have the New England Patriots, Super Bowl champions, facing the NFC West powerhouse Kansas City Chiefs. For those of you who didn't look at that game, which is obviously a lot of people, the Chiefs defeated the Patriots, which shouldn't surprise anybody. I believe the Patriots could spot the rest of the NFL 6 games and still end up being the AFC champions, and then they could spot their opponent in the Super Bowl 3 touchdowns and probably still win. So if you're a Patriots fan, no need to worry about that. But the biggest story of the opening Thursday night NFL season was the miserable, massive ratings spike. It's another sign that I've been telling you all that something is brewing. Again, people cannot go out right now today and vote. That's what they would like to do. They have a lot on their minds. So because they can't go out and cast a vote at the local board of elections, they're voting every other way that they can, and they're voting with their money. We have, of course, seen that Hollywood box office receipts are the lowest in decades. We can see that people are fed up. They are not. They're not watching NFL. They are turning off their sports. They are boycotting people, and this is all groups who are opposed to Trump, mostly opposed to Trump and his ideas. So clearly this is the Trump supporters across the country, and that 87% of the country in the red states, which is most of the country, by the way, who are now responding with their money. They're responding with their money, and they're casting their vote, letting you know what they think. This is why I know that I'm seeing signs that 2018 and 2020 are going to be historical elections. You are going to see a lot of establishment candidates, both left and right, some getting voted out, many getting a hell of a scare. And so we can see what is developing now, and the signs are all around us. Gateway Pundit reporting that Representative Rohrabacher is calling for hearings on the Clinton Foundation and Russia connection. This is coming after the Assange meeting. Now, I don't know if Assange gave Rohrabacher some information that he's brought back with him, but apparently following the meeting with Assange, not only is he looking for a meeting with the president to discuss the evidence that Assange is willing to provide, which, of course, Trump's kind of busy right now with 2 hurricanes and various other things on the agenda. But as soon as he gets a chance, I'm sure him and Mr. Rohrabacher will be sitting down for a conversation, and we'll see what Trump has to do about that. But currently, he's also learned something from Assange because he sent a letter to the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Ed Royce, to approve of hearings involving corruption between Russia and the Clinton Foundation. He cites new evidence that the Obama administration had prior knowledge to possible bribery and violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act involving state-owned Russian nuclear industry figures and the Clinton Foundation and other Americans prior to the approval of the Uranium One transaction. Also, Rohrabacher told Hannity that he was 99% certain that the Russian collusion story is a total lie after meeting with Assange. So yeah, we have all known about the Uranium One deal. It's been talked about by many other members of Congress, but they haven't taken it up. Maybe it's just because there's so many things, so many crimes. How can you focus on, all these crimes at once? I mean, the Clintons have had such a crime spree over the years, particularly in the last years that Hillary was Secretary of State under the rotten Marxist Obama, that it's taking time to get to all these crimes and all this corruption. And a lot of people have been asking about the Uranium One deal. Clearly the Clinton Foundation got massive donations, and then the deal got done. And it certainly does warrant hearings. But I believe that the Rotten Reverend is probably most in danger from the email investigation, which I do believe has been reopened. Maybe they're looking at the Clinton Foundation as well. I do believe that there is going to be legal repercussions for the Rotten Reverend in regards to the emails, what they do with this, and whether or not this chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee does take Rohrabacher's advice and call for hearings. I don't know. We'll just have to watch. But the Rotten Reverend Clinton, that's why she's out there trying to make some money, selling books and selling $3,000 seats to hear her cry and whine, because her and her hubby know that they're about to be getting their assets liquidated to accommodate their legal fees, which will run into the millions and millions of dollars. Next up, in a class action lawsuit against the Saudi government, new evidence has emerged that shows the Saudi government and religious leaders worked with two of the hijackers in a dry run test in January 2000, the details of which are laid out very, very clearly in the story. So the Saudis were involved in 9/11? Duh. Let me give you two words for those of you who are looking into that 9/11 fiasco and whether or not you want to know if there was some foul play going on. I have two words for you. Building 7. Building 7. Watch the free fall collapse of Building 7 and come to your own conclusion about what you think could have caused such a structural failure. Such a structural failure. The Democrats, the party faithful, the party loyalists, the big donors, the whole group, they're now going to Senator Sanders and saying, call off your attack dogs. They're talking about the Bernie bros who are not playing ball. They're realizing now in the Democratic establishment that the Bernie bros are serious. They're willing to lose to Trump again in 2020. They're willing to have Sarah Palin as president. They want to see that party completely destroyed. They want to see the corporate Democrats run out. They want to see Hillary wiped off the face of the earth. They want to see Pelosi and Schumer gone. They want to see Mr. Perez gone. They want to see Wasserman Schultz in prison. The Bernie bros are probably, maybe hate the corporate Democrats more than Republicans do. That's the God's honest truth. I watch a lot of these liberal progressives, and I'm telling you, they are not going to stand down. And the fact that the corporate Democrats believe that Bernie Sanders even has the ability to get these Bernie bros to back down, the progressive wing of the party. Bernie's lost control of this thing a long time ago. I mean, Bernie bailed on the whole thing. He didn't hit the Rotten Reverend because of the agreement that they had going into the election. He let her off the hook. He didn't hit her on emails. Nobody cares about your damn emails. Who cares about your damn emails? Well, he didn't hit her. And then she cheated him. And then instead of coming out like a man and calling her out, instead he fell in line. He endorsed her and then campaigned for her. And he has lost a lot of his supporters as well. He's no longer in a position of credibility to call off the attack dogs. The fact of the matter is, it's going to get much, much worse for the corporate Democratic Party. I told you they have a very deep problem with their progressive wing of their base, and it is not going to air itself out anytime soon. It's going to cost them dearly in 2018 and in 2020 and maybe beyond. The people currently in the corporate Democratic Party do not want to extricate themselves and allow that party to be reborn. They're going to try to impose their will upon the progressive wing of their party. It's not going to work. Because now, when you get the voters in your party to the point where they hate you so bad that they're willing to lose election after election after election until you're gone, you've lost control of them. You're not getting them back. It's over for them. And until we see major, major change at the top, nothing is going to change for those Democrats in the corporate Democratic Party. And they sowed the seeds of their own destruction. And you can thank the Rotten Reverend. And what she's doing right now is not making it any better. And that's why they're telling her to stand down, to shut the hell up. They realize that they have a supersized problem. And the Bernie bros are playing hardball. The Rotten Reverend's out there trashing the corporate Democratic Party. That is a party that is a complete mess. Not that the Republican Party is a thing of beauty, because it is not, and we need to fix a lot of the problems and throw out a lot of the phony conservatives, which I hope we do in 2018 and 2020. But the problems in the Democratic Party are much, much larger. And right now, Trump is having his way with them. He's playing 3D chess, and they're playing hopscotch or tic-tac-toe or something. I have no idea, nor do they. Question: did Debbie do Dulles? Did Debbie do Dulles? Well, if you look at the facts, Mr. Ray, Sherlock Ray, if you look at the facts, you should be asking some questions of Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz, because as we pointed out yesterday and in several other videos, as is being pointed out by many other people, we know that Imran Awan's wife went to the airport. The FBI were quite aware of this. They had been surveilling her. They had been following her. They had been monitoring her, as well as her husband. When she went to make her getaway, they were there to make the arrest. They were told to stand down. We know that Mr. Awan's behavior, along with his wife's behavior, tells us conclusively that they were tipped off that things were going on, that they were going to be probably charged, maybe arrested or what have you. Someone was giving them information. Someone tipped them off. Who was it? Now, maybe it was Comey, directly or indirectly. Maybe it was Brennan, directly or indirectly. Someone else at the DNC. But the most likely candidate for who tipped off the Awans that they were under investigation and that they needed to get out of the country quickly, most likely Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz. I think the answer to whether or not Debbie did Dulles, I think the answer is pretty clear. She wouldn't take long to get the answer to that question. And my guess is that along with the other many questions that the Awans have been forced to answer in order to save their necks and get that immunity deal, my guess is that is certainly one of the questions that they've probably been asked, is as far as who was tipping them off. And I think that this is going to be an important piece of the puzzle in prosecuting, because this will show that there was real intent on the part of Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz, and this wasn't just a series of circumstances and coincidences and things and such, that this is a carefully executed plan, and that there's a lot more going on here, something going on here with espionage, something going on with possibly blackmail, extortion. Not exactly sure of the full details, but we do know that the Awans have been granted or are in the process of finalizing an immunity deal. They're going to get completely off the hook, no jail time at all. In order to get that deal, they had to give up a pretty big fish, or some pretty big fish, and they had to come clean. No secrets at all. They had to tell everything they got, completely spill their guts about everything. That's the only way that they got this immunity deal. It's obvious that that is what they've done. Now the only question that remains for Debbie does Dulles Wasserman Schultz is, does Debbie does Dallas Wasserman Schultz have any bigger fish that she can serve up to the feds? My guess is that's what she's contemplating now. But remember, it's the Clinton lawyers who are representing Awan, and Debbie does Dulles Wasserman Schultz may have had that avenue cut off. I'm sure the Clintons have dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and I think that it looks like Debbie did Dulles Wasserman Schultz is going to be the one that's going to be thrown under the bus. You know, there's only really 2 or 3 people she could give up that are a bigger fish than her. One will be Obama. You're not going to get him. Too many people will fall on the sword to protect him. They'll side with him and oppose her. The Clintons probably have their bases covered on this particular thing, and we still don't know. We know Debbie did Dulles, most likely. We don't know if she did Seth Rich. That is a speculation, but she may know who did Seth Rich. That may be the only way she gets herself off the hook, and we have not forgotten about Seth Rich. So, this is the Sunday morning edition of TowerGate. It is day 189, Sunday, September 10th, Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with Monday's video. A lot more to talk about, including my thoughts on Trump's strategy for the what he's been doing the last week or so, cutting deals with Democrats, sidelining Twitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, Big Ears Ryan, cutting the deals he's cutting. What the hell is he doing? A lot of you are wondering. I have some ideas on that. I'll be commenting on that on tomorrow's video, as well as getting caught up on some more of the breaking news. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be back with you tomorrow. This has been the Sunday morning edition. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.